Okay, hello everyone, welcome. I'm so excited about this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jenny Mulberg. I teach at UCM, I chair the creative writing program, and I also direct Pleiades Press and co-edit Pleiades with Aaron Adair Hodges. I'm very honored to be your host for this evening as we gather to celebrate Rosemary Kinder and her new book, A Common Person, winner of the Richard Sullivan Prize in Short Fiction, recently out from University of Notre Dame Press. The book is available for purchase through the UCM bookstore, and I will also drop a link to Notre Dame Press where you can purchase the book online, and I'll drop that into the chat here in a minute. So I'll go ahead and kindly ask all of you just to keep yourselves muted until the end of Rosemary's reading, during which time I will invite everyone to unmute themselves and applaud, and then we'll have some time for Rosemary to answer some questions. When I was first hired at UCM 6 years ago, I can't believe it's been 6 years, I met Rosemary, I think it was at a dinner, but I really got to know her when I started attending the Old Drum open mic nights. Rosemary would share her writing, but one highlight that I'll never forget was when Rosemary played dulcimer, I think it was, and sang us a folk song that she had written, complete with yodeling. I knew that she was an unbelievably talented writer, editor, and professor, but every time I met Rosemary, I found myself delighted to learn another one of her talents or hear another exciting story about her life. We often hear that to be a great writer, you first have to really live. And in a conversation with Rosemary or hearing her read or sing, you know that she lives a fascinating life. And that is part of why she's such a gifted and talented writer. I remember talking to a friend later that night after I heard Rosemary perform and saying, at the end of my career at UCM, if I'm anything like Rosemary, I've made it. Rosemary is an absolute gem, and I consider myself lucky to live in her legacy at UCM. Rosemary Kinder is originally from Southeast Missouri and was a professor of English at UCM from 1989 to 2002, where she taught literature and creative writing. She coordinated the creative writing program, served as editor for Pleiades, and established Pleiades Press, which is an internationally recognized publisher of many exciting writers. Rosemary Kinder's fifth book, A Common Person, which we'll hear her read from tonight, won the Richard Sullivan Prize for Short Fiction and came out this February 1st from University of Notre Dame Press. Congratulations, Rosemary. Her other award-winning books include Sweet Angel Band, A Near Perfect Gift, An Absolute Gentleman, and The Universe Playing Strings. She is co-author of a dual media biography, Old Time Fiddling, Hal Sappington, Missouri Fiddler, published by the Johnson County, Missouri Historical Society in 2012. Kinder's short fiction, nonfiction, and poems have appeared in numerous publications, among them Passages North, Notre Dame Review, Appalachian Review, North American Review, Missouri Life, and the New York Times op-ed, among many others. Please join me in welcoming Rosemary.
Hello, that is absolutely a glowing introduction, and that alone makes me glad that this is being recorded, because it'll never be topped, Jenny. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I also want to thank Pleiades Press, the English department, Mark, Joseph, and especially Jenny, Dr. Jenny Mulberg, who's a poet and a friend, and kept me advised all along while she was promoting her own new books and teaching and traveling. So I appreciate all of this. This is a big celebration to me, a different kind of celebration, and that's because, as Jenny said, I started at UCM in 1989, and my first collection of fiction was published in 1991. And as I remember, or unless I misremember, it was published in April. Well, I don't think I did a reading until the fall, but with Mona Van Dyne, or the winner of the Mona Van Dyne contest. And here it is, 2021. And I'm reading at UCM as a guest with 4 more books. And that to me is a circle, and it's a big circle. And I like patterns, and I like phases, and I like rituals. And so I like the way it all came together, and that I'm reading from my own home after a pandemic. I mean, it's just a glorious thing to me. It's very difficult to select what to read because there's 17 stories in this collection and they all differ. I don't tend to have one voice, one subject. I use different points of view. And some of the stories I would like to read, I won't read because they're sensitive to some ears, to some people. Like one is about abortion, a discussion between a mother and a daughter, whether or not she can have the abortion. Very timely topic, but very sensitive. And one rape, where I fool with point of view. The person is going to be the victim and the one who wants to be the rapist, and the psychiatrist. Well, that could hurt somebody, but I want you to know those stories are in this collection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read sections from four very short, like 3-minute sections from 4 different stories, maybe 5. And I've read some of them before. And if you've attended another reading, likely you're going to hear repeats. But maybe that'll just entice you to ask a question or something. So I'm going to start often in the middle of the book, but the context will become clear to you, I think. I forgot to turn my timer on, but I hope I stay within it. So Jenny, you can always give me a high sign. The first one is from the title story, A Common Person. It's two pages in. They came for her after 7, in the midst of a televised update on the president-elect's last outrageous tweet. She heard the car pulling into the driveway, heard 2 doors shut. She turned off the television and stood back. A horizontal oblong window allowed her to see them approaching. They wore suits. How ridiculous to be so obvious, but then that was a kind of honesty. Suddenly she wanted to text her daughter in California saying, I posted a joke about guns and I'm afraid I'm in trouble. She didn't have time to text anything. They were knocking. In a short time, she was in the back of their car, one of them beside her. They had her cell phone, her purse, and the medication she had been allowed to gather up. They had also her 2 revolvers, the scant ammunition, and a fishing knife she had been given long ago and kept in the nightstand drawer. I'm not a well woman, she said to the man next to her. He was blond and very lean with a sharp nose. I have to stay calm. You're not in any danger, he said. This is a process and will be over soon. You just need to answer some questions and give people time to check your answers. It's a scary process from my end of it and unnecessary. I can answer questions from my house. She had already explained 3 times that the post meant nothing, was a kind of joke, and she had deleted it because she realized it wasn't funny and could leave the wrong impression. I want to phone my daughter. Later. I protest, she said, and focused on the terrain, on small points, as she might have done if she suffered from motion sickness. We have a facility in Kansas City, the man in the front seat said. It's very comfortable. You'll have dinner, bed, whatever you need. That meant she was staying, no telling how long. What about my dog and my cats? I have 2 cats who are probably home now. They'll be taken care of. The need to cry and run swelled in her chest so she gulped for air but didn't turn her head away from the window. They passed deep fields, twilight softening the shapes into shadows. Fireflies flickered. She saw a mare and colt, saw cattle. Cars passed them. Headlights cut the night ahead. The flatland turned to gentle hills. Her fear became more a pulse and she could think in the dips. In at least a day or 2, her daughter would begin to worry and would take steps to locate her mother. She wasn't really alone or at the mercy of strangers. This was America, her country. She had done nothing. She was just an old woman who owned guns and had made a foolish statement. That's the first sort of heavy one about, of course, violence. More than violence, gun control, personal rights, invasion, fear, women's roles. This next one is from Mother Post. I've also read it. It's also one of the heavy ones. Lighter ones will follow. This is written in a point of view that I favor. I like to think of it as a community view or a collective view, so that you're getting the community's point of view. It's probably omniscient technically, but I like my own terms, and I like it to be the collective view. Another, Weta Laban looked out front one morning, and overnight, the post office had put a mailbox post in the easement between her house and the road with no warning, no anything. This is 2 pages in. Another post popped up in front of the mayor's house. It was black too. Then another one at the city manager's place. Then another at the Methodist minister's. Was this the handiwork of a cult? Were the posts identifying evil or attacking good? If the latter, they were doomed by the solidarity of the townspeople, a solidarity now increasing. A post showed up not planted, but leaning against the corner seat of the center row of the movie house. The show that night was a haunting of Audrey Rose. The floor felt different, suspiciously sticky, and the air was filmy like oil had been burned off. The whole evening there was preciously vile. Some teenagers from Dexter claimed the theater post, passing the word that they had slipped it in through an exit. Just wood, they claimed, no slimy stuff. But the other details persisted as fact, thus suggesting a ritual not as wholesome as a teenage prank, satanic or sexual, probably both, or possibly both. A dead cat was found in the anteroom at the post office, and a dead dog on the hood of the mayor's car. They had evidently been dead for some time, and maybe someone had just hunted roadkill for this purpose, but it was ugly all the same, escalating. Things were escalating. Next time it might be a recent dead animal, recently a live dead animal. Someone was just buying into the violence to open a door for maybe long time built up thoughts, long time sheer nastiness made possible. People like to have a little war when a big one was going on, This was a way of easing tensions in the human community, little dribbles of bad. No, evil was mutating. That was a fact. You couldn't kill it. Even in movies, the dead evil just popped right back up, showed its face in the feathery offstage night, glowing like a little moon. A fellow said the men should get together one night, maybe with a few of the ministers, and should dig up the first post, the mother post, he called it, drag it through town and burn it to ashes and bury the ashes. The specificity of his passion created a pocket of champions who would defend the post to the death. Mother post. The phrase chilled the skin but fired the heart. So those are the 2 heavy ones. And now I want to move to lighter ones. One of them I've read at one reading. And years ago, a dear friend of mine who was an attorney here, Judith Seminole, told me that she had bought my first book or second collection, and had read it, but she didn't want to tell me that because the stories were so bleak. She didn't want me to know how she felt about it. And since that time, and that was 2005, I think, I've wanted to write less bleak stories. I'm not a bleak person. I'm a happy person. I like jokes and beauty and romance, but my fiction doesn't always show that. So what I'm getting ready to read you now is part of a story that was never published. Shonda Zimmerman helped me trim it down. I think it would have been published. And it's a romance, actually. I believe that all it takes to have a grand passion is 2 people who believe in it. And I believe that the Kardashians and all the people that we watch for these grand passions and great lives, it's occurring in everybody's life. You're just not on the big stage. It's happening, it's playing out in the small stage. And this is a community who's interested in the possibility of a grand passion between 2 people. It's another community view, the stuff of balance. She wasn't a musician, though all the men had hoped she was, certain they could feel the magic of a voice about to be released, or perhaps a body. Not that she was beautiful, nothing like that, but comely, yes. Small, striving for height and spiked shoes that perched her precariously and delicately, always thrusting forward. Her husband was a banjo player, not very good, but handsome in a regular way, a bit muscular and tanned and obviously in control of his woman. When he jammed at the local bars with the other musicians, she was audience for all, but she talked with none of the men unless one approached her. And then she was friendliness and daintiness and purity too. The husband's brown eyes would flit toward her and keep her pinioned chastely in that chair until he was ready to leave. Even so, even so, something was amiss with those two, and hopes dallied around her. When she left with her husband, she waved at everyone in general, like wishing the whole world merriment, and her disproportionately long legs were enticingly firm, arched for attention, and her smile, slightly buck teeth, just slightly, always a sign of a woman who could make a man happy, suggested she was some fond of them all and very sorry to be leaving. The women liked her, which amazed both men and women. She chattered a great deal, laughed winsomely, became flustered easily, and always had a nice comment about her female companion's appearance. Rumors about her and her husband were common, particularly because the couple seemed so perfect, so devoted to one another and to their two children. Sooner or later, something spicy would emerge because no one was truly that happy. Then someone noticed that another banjo player, not her husband, was always edging around the woman. He was a hot musician, so good that lesser musicians got nervous if he was even standing nearby. And when he played, he wasn't aware of people or time. He could play for hours. His eyes became dreamy, his lips parted. When the music finally ended, the other musicians closing away instruments, the banjo player would come startled back to place. When that happened, he far too often moved in one direction, toward the sunshine of a buck-tooth smile. Those two are drawn together. It's as evident as the nose on your face. I wonder her husband doesn't see. He sees. He just doesn't have to worry about her. He's got her under his thumb. You wait. That is my grand passion in the making, but you remember I'm a realist. We don't know what's going to happen. And now I tried to put paper clips in the right order. This is my favorite character. No, that's not it. Excuse me for not doing this better. Everyday Sky. The character here is Milo. He's 12 years old in this story, but in my other work, he's a young man in his 20s or early 30s. This is a boy who wanted to save a dog. It's a sentimental story, and I love it. I break all the rules for literary writing, which must end drearily. Every day, either before or after supper, he walked the hound. When rain flooded the streets and gushed down the alley ruts, Milos went for the animal, slipping and sliding down the hill, struggling back up. In lightning once, the sky crackling around them. His mother had protested, but his father had said, "Let him go, it's his job now." Milos asked the owner to get some straw, and the man did. Milos spread it around the little house, put some inside, and there spread towel rags his mother gave him. He begged for another hay bale, and Milos's dad bought two. They tugged them down the hill and made a windbreak for the creature. "You've gone crazy," his dad said. "You understand how it works, doing the job right. So maybe skip a day. Even the dog may need a rest." A rare cold spell came with ice, and the owner answered the door, easing Milos's worry. "We've got him in the garage. It's too cold for him, and it's too cold for you. I think I should find him a home. It's a hardship on you doing this. You should stop it now. We actually regret letting you walk him. I admire you, but it's too much for the situation." It's no hardship. Milos wanted to go inside the garage, see if the hound was really there. He thought he could hear a high, keen, real faint. "You didn't give him away, did you?" "No, I wouldn't do that without telling you." He sounded sincere, but Milos doubted him. Things happened. Milos loved the musky smell of the hound, the rough smoothness and comfort of that coat, of the heavy chest and the solidly beating heart. He thought how lonesome he would be one day if the hound died, because dogs didn't live as long as humans, but that was a long way off. Now it was his dog, his companion, just on short jaunts. He had always in his pocket a bit of something to share. He could put his cheek next to the hound's muzzle and feel what he thought was love, what his mother and father felt for him and for Pravi, his brother, and what the grandparents felt for him and Pravi, and what he felt for his brother. He didn't know what Pravi felt for him. He hoped it was this, akin to this at least, maybe not as much. He gained weight that winter, and height and breadth too. He might be as big as his dad, maybe bigger than your father, his mother said. He was sitting down then, and she patted his shoulder and kissed the top of his head. Already so. She left the room, and he wondered at what she had said. One Friday in spring, he found the doghouse gone. The ground was bare, food dish and water dish gone, hay raked up and away back from the cleared spot, off the face of the earth. Some adult's words, now his. He ran up the hill to the front door, knocked. He heard the high yap of that little Scottish trader. He knew they were in there, at least the woman of the house. He wanted to kick the door, put dirt through the mail slot. Where is he? He yelled, and he hit the door once, his hand stinging. They'd given the hound to a hunter or to a shelter. They were tired of his, Milos's, encroaching on their territory, of enforcing their own rules. He was caretaking the animal as they wanted, everyday duty, done with love, with care, not neglected, not that animal. All he was allowed to give, he gave. He would have walked him twice a day. He would have slept with him at times. The dog was a dumb creature and couldn't ask for all he needed, just bark and stare and quiver and hope the signs and sounds were understood. At home, Milo stepped into the house quietly, breathing a little hard. He smelled one of his favorite dishes, lamb and noodles. He didn't want it. There had to be something momentous he could do. Write the hound's name in the stars. If that's not 20 minutes, I can read one other short section. Jenny, where am I?
Yes, please read one more.
I'm just going, okay. This is Milos at 24 in The Dancer's Son. It's just one part of his story. He loses his job. He won't tell his dad. There's all sorts of things going on. He lives 2 hours away from his father. Milos's father began appearing at Milos's home. Usually, he arrived only shortly after the son, sometimes before. He boomed through the front door with a "You up?" Even if Milos was standing right before him or in the shower or still in bed. "You up? Breakfast in 1 minute." And Mr. Lukovich would carry the 1 or 2 bags of groceries into the kitchen. "You okay, Pop?" Milos asked the first time. "What's not okay? I come to fix my son breakfast." He went about slicing bread, onions, cracking eggs into a bowl, stuffing things into the refrigerator. This refrigerator should be damned. Condemned. It should be condemned. Right, should be in the garbage. Milos showered, then stood wrapped in a towel watching his father. "Are you sure you're okay? You eat with clothes on or you don't eat." Milos dressed hurriedly and wished the phone were not near the kitchen so he could call his mother. In the kitchen, he sat where his father motioned him to. The curtains were now open and coffee steamed from cups on the table. Hot, sudsy water filled the sink. An orange-pink dawn illuminated the alley and the neighbor's fence. A working man should eat a big breakfast, his father said, and they ate together with comments about the grapevines that needed watering in the back, about grapes don't grow in Arizona, and water all the time, all the time, all the time. "I'll mop this floor this morning. Been 6 years since somebody mopped this floor. I mop it every week." "Sure you do. You need a wife." His father began clearing the table. "You're acting real crazy, Pop. Does Mom know you're down here? You leave her a note or anything?" "She doesn't care where I go. I slept in my bed. You go to work. No, Lukovich is late for work." Milos called his mother the moment he got to the office. "How should I know?" she said. "He gets out of his bed, says he'll fix Milos breakfast, and he's gone. He does what he wants to do. Don't let it upset you. You do your job. Your father is okay." At lunch, he drove home. His father was gone. No dishes in the sink or on the counter. Everything wiped down and put away. Rake circles in the dirt yard. Grape vine trench soaked. He called his father. Just seeing if you got home all right. Of course I got home. I drove one side of the road 55 miles the whole way. Who's going to stop me? Did you eat lunch? I put food in your refrigerator. Don't call so much. It costs money and makes your mother worry. He hung up the phone. The next week, he came twice. The next 3 times. In, cook, clean, go, poof. You got nothing better to do than clean my house. I got nothing better to do. So clean it. I will. Milos liked it. Crazy man, crazy Serbian man. At work, he punched his secretary, his chest, and told the secretary, "You think Americans got customs? We got customs. We got customs I don't even know about. Customs up to here." He gestured to his eyebrows and swung back to the office. And that's it.
I'd like to invite everyone to please unmute yourself, and let's give Rosemary a big show of love and appreciation. That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite everyone, you feel free to unmute yourself, ask a question, make a comment. If you would like, you can also share a question in the chat and I will ask it on your behalf.
Jenny, was I muted?
Just now?
Okay, but not the whole time I was reading, right?
Oh, no.
No.
I saw that I was muted and I,
No. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Rosemary.
no
Can I start the question?
Sure.
I want to ask, I know that you said that you really like Everyday Sky, but you've never told me which one you don't like of your stories. Which is your least favorite?
Okay, I am actually, I'd forgotten that. And I'm very glad to answer that because people, when they read it, will understand, you know, why it's in there. I don't like a story called The Rising Silence because a man is bullying his wife. She has a medical condition, and for his pride and his need to control and to have her believe him, just once believe him above the doctor or above someone, he puts her in a threatening situation. He bullies her, and he doesn't really learn from it. If he learns from it, there's no tender moment. There is a moment of recognition, but it's more of loss to himself than what he's really done. And I felt like I had to put it in the collection, but I don't like him. I don't like the story, but I think it does have a purpose. It's a kind of extreme cruelty, and it's something that people should recognize and people should fight it. And women who are in that situation should definitely never submit to it. But I'm not sure that I make that point clear in the story, but the rest of the stories around it do make that point. And therefore, I guess that answers, you know, when you don't like one of your own stories, it's pretty hard to explain why it's in there. It's an important story to me, but it's just ugly in the nature of the man. Some people aren't likable, and you can't find that. You can't. Every human has, I believe, has a talent, has a gift. They're vital in some way to the rest of the community, but it doesn't mean you always have to like them. And I could not. I guess that's the main point. Is I can't find that in this man. Except he has a great need to be in control, and maybe that is an illness with him. Any other questions? I hope so. I don't want there to just be one.
I have a question. So you mentioned that you thought your writing in the past tended to be more bleak, and that you've kind of moved into maybe a different aspect or a different perspective in recent years. Do you find that more satisfying to write in a more, I don't know whether the word would be positive, but you know, as opposed to writing maybe some of the darker stories in the past? I mean, has this been more satisfying to you as a writer, or why do you think the big difference? Why do you think the big change in your writing?
I think when I first started out, I was learning how to write and learning how to live. And I was going through so much turmoil. And the kind of things I liked to write when I was young, I liked to write ballads, and I liked to write stories about animals. And the stories I was read that were printed though, were really sad things like Little Colette and just sad things. And I can't remember the stable girl or the peasant girl. My mother used to buy used books that had old stories in them, and she would read them. And ballads are almost always sad. They're almost always sad. But as I grew older and learned to write, I learned that literary work does not always have to be negative. Some of the most beautiful work is positive and filled with love for human beings and admiring what they do. And I've been trying to move into that and still tell the kind of stories about the issues that fire me up. I see something and I want to write about that issue, like a man bullying his wife or somebody not taking care of a dog. Who keeps one dog in the house and another one chained outside? What heartbreak. And so I have to write about it. I have to discover that. And it's bleak, but what I can do is make them end better. And that's my goal. And yes, I'm happier. And when I think now about writing and how can I give an uplifting message in something, they're not in this, the stories in this work are not all uplifting. All are, but they're uplifting about the human spirit and about fight and endurance and love. But they're very realistic too. And so, Christine, Shonda, I hope I answered that.
Mhm.
I have a question. This is Janice.
Hi, Janet.
And it's not going to sound like a question because there's a huge intro. It's about the story called Signs. And so I like the elegance of Signs. 3 unrelated characters traveling toward each other. The reader immediately roots for the romance between Lily and William, and eventually between the trucker Dutch and the dog Delilah. These characters are also full of intensity, even the little dog taking on Delilah. And this builds along with the intensity of the changes happening in the sky all day long in this one day. So what is the title Signs referring to? So how do signs correlate with the moody weather and the emotions of these people and dogs?
Oh, I love this question. Do you remember at the beginning? I swear I've never heard that question before. I mean, do you remember at the beginning of my intro that I said I like phases, I like patterns, phases and ritual. I am fascinated by what cannot be coincidence. And that there seems to be a great pattern at times. You move into a house when you're trying to find something stable, for example, and you'll be living on the corner of University and Satisfaction or something like that. You think, how could that be? Or a woman named Margaret moves into your life and she steals the love of someone that you want. And then later on, you meet another Margaret who does that. And then you meet Margaret who's going to be your best friend. And you think, well, where's the lesson here? Where's the lesson? So it's like if an eclipse is going to happen in our planet, our solar system, if there's one going to happen here, and if time warps and everything's connected. Absolutely, everything is connected. And I feel like that's what happens. It's the confluence of the twain or the more than the twain. And people are meant to get together, I think, sometimes. And things happen because they're supposed to, even though you don't know. I don't think that's transcendental either. I think it's my observation of the order in the world. And sometimes it's scary and sometimes it's comforting, but it's always there.
Rosemary, it's Holly. I've
Hi,
got a
Holly.
question. It's kind of silly, but you're talking about patterns. is Milosh at age 12 the same Milosh as an adult?
Yes.
He is. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's exciting. Maybe we'll see what happens to Milosh as an old man.
Milo shows up in my first collection and in the universe playing strings as a minor character. I think maybe I should write a book about him because he just keeps popping up, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Rosemarie, I have a question from Zaid Mahir that I think is a good segue here. He asks, is there a character in one of your stories that you wanted to write more about, something like a sequence, but did not? And do you have plans to do something like that?
Yeah, now who asked that question?
That was Zaid Mahir.
Yes, I do. In fact, more than one. What I would really want to do, my next work, what it would be if I could do it. I want to draw all of my work together so that I have an open novel, so that characters from this novel are in this novel, and characters from this short story appears in another, and that so that I have a universe that I have created. You know, Faulkner had Yoknapatawpha County, and he had a history, and other Tolkien had a language. Well, I'm not comparing myself to them because I'm a lower scale writer, not, you know, on the big stage or anything. But I have that desire in me that all of my characters are related in my world, and I would like to be able to integrate my work. And gradually I'm doing that because Weta Laban is in the first collection. She's Cora's mother. Different characters are appearing. And now I'm writing ghost stories, and I'm letting some of those characters be people who are interested in ghosts because they are. You know, Chuck Hopter up here, a friend of mine, he's interested in ghosts. I know all sorts of people. Do you see what I mean? I want to write serious literature. I want to use my characters, the people I know in the world I know, and I want to make it bigger. And there. So there's not just one character, but Milosh is a good one to write a lot about.
Rosemarie, I have a question
Hi.
about writing and music. You're a writer, you're a musician. I know that you've written at least one ballad. Could you talk about the intersection between writing and music in your life and in your writing?
I would be happy to. I do believe that my writing rose from ballads, from singing ballads and liking the romance. When I read works, I often notice the music in there, people singing, and I like the music of prose. And I was asked by one, I think Valerie Sayers, if I paid attention to the music in my language, if I did. And yes, I do. And sometimes it becomes so rhythmic that it ruins the sense. And I have to go back and I have to cut some of that out. I'll start noticing that I've got the same kind of sentences or alliteration, a consonant, something's going on that's ruining the prose. But I think my tendency is to want to write things that have the power of ballads. I want to write things like that. I want to write characters like that. And I long to write beautiful prose, far beyond what I can write. I mean, Annie Proulx, her prose just amazes me. There are many writers who do, but right now I'm in love with her. And so it intersects constantly. I'm very sound oriented, and I will not see something that a person has on or what a house looks like, but I will hear voices. I can't eat in a restaurant if music's on because I hear the lyrics, and it just has to do with my nature. Who was the guy that won was it Mark Phelps that had extra large lungs so he could swim? Well, I think I've got sensitive ears, and so music. But you know, Tom Averill, music is in his writing too, probably more so than mine even, I think. By the way, publicly right now with a big audience, I want to thank Tom Averill and Jeffrey Goody, they have supported me since book one and have enabled me to succeed in ways I probably couldn't have without their support. Just wanted to say it. Thanks, guys. And my daughter, if I didn't have Christine as an editor and a moral compass, I might have trouble. So I have a lot of people to thank. I can't ever thank them enough. And this has been wonderful. Any more questions? Miriam, I hope I answered you. I never.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
By the way, if you heard a little high beeping, that was not in my house. The alarm goes off in the school next door every other day, and it just had to do it today.
I wondered what that was.
I did love the apt timing of the dog barking during that story, though.
Yeah.
It added a little soundtrack.
I thought about letting one of my cats in just because that's, you know, almost a literary meme right now is to have a cat at a reading.
We probably have time for one more question if anyone else
I'm
has.
just going to say thank you for thanks for the comments, Rosemary.
Well, The Universe Playing Strings would not be published, and I love that book, and it wouldn't have been published without you, Tom. So.
Gonna put Tom in, Jeff?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, are you muted?
Does anyone have one more question?
I have one. So what's on the horizon? What's the next project?
Well, right now I have 3 books underway. I'm sorry, one of them is A Longing for Angels, and one is A Passion for Joe, and one is Loving Ghost. And so I'm always busy. If I had another pandemic, I could finish one. Oh, well, listen, I know this is ending. God bless you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rosemary.
Thank you for reading.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Thank you all for coming, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. And Rosemary, thank you so much for the gift of you and your words.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Jenny. Good night.
Good night.
All right, thank
Night.
you. Thank you. Good night.